Hello, Ottawa. I'm Zaeira Yakova with MetroCity Property Group, and today I'm joined by a real estate lawyer and my friend.
Sarah Adada from Kelly Santini LLP.
Thank you for joining us today, Sarah.
Thank you for having me again.
So, today we wanted to make a video about the role of a real estate lawyer when you purchase your home. So, we know that you have three professionals that are involved in this journey with you. You have a mortgage broker that helps you identify your budget if you need a mortgage and financing. And once we've established that, you start working with me. We go through that whole journey of finding your home and reaching an agreement with the seller for the home that you fall in love with. Once we have an accepted offer in our hands, or even a conditional offer in our hands, we then contact Sarah to help us start the closing process. If there are conditions that need to be fulfilled in that offer, then you would be pulled in. For example, if there's a status certificate that needs to be reviewed for a condo. If you want to learn more about what that is, we have a link below to our previous video about status certificates. So we've put an offer into the seller. They've accepted our offer. It's time to start the closing process. So Sarah, what do you do once the real estate agent sends you all those transaction documents and introduces you to the buyer?
So, the first thing that we do is we congratulate the buyers on their upcoming purchase and we send them our retainer letter, which will set out the items that we need them to share with us and to fill out some of their information in that form. And most importantly, what I like to do is set up a phone call with the buyers, even if they're not first-time buyers, just to, go over the process of what I do, the steps I'll be taking, and just to let them know that anytime they've got any questions, they can always reach out to me at my office, and I'd be more than happy to go over anything that, you have any concerns with. Yes.
That's great. So, and that's true. You're very good at communicating. You're always available to answer calls, which is really, really nice to have your lawyer available to help
Yes.
you. The first question that I get all the time, what does it cost to have a lawyer, a real estate lawyer?
So on every transaction, it differs. I always recommend that clients do give me a call so that I can give them a quote on the closing cost for their purchase transaction. But other than our base legal fee and the disbursements that are involved in our office, the most important cost and the biggest cost is the land transfer tax, which depends on the purchase price, the title insurance, the registration cost, and the title search cost. So all of these things are quoted based on the purchase price of your home. And if you give us a call, we can go over your agreement of purchase and sale, review it together, let you know what the process entails, and go over the costs that you will expect so that you can get ready to budget for those when it comes to closing date.
That's perfect, because we do tell buyers when we start looking for that home, because in Ontario you don't pay commission to real estate agents. That's already something that's decided with the seller when they're listing their home. But a cost that buyers do incur is closing costs. And one of those closing costs is the lawyer and the process that you just explained. Now, can any lawyer represent a buyer in closing their real estate transaction? Or does it have to be a real estate lawyer? Because sometimes I do have people ask me if their family lawyer can do it, or a litigation lawyer. So how does that work?
So only real estate lawyers can act on real estate transaction. And what makes a real estate lawyer is that they are real estate insured by Law Pro. So if you are real estate insured, you can obviously act on a transaction. And I've actually had this one transaction where the seller was a real estate lawyer herself, but obviously she couldn't take care of her own transaction. She had to retain us to do her own sale transaction.
So when we're talking about title insurance, for example, what is title insurance and do you need to have it? And what does it protect buyers from?
Absolutely. So title insurance is something super important and it's typically optional. However, every lender in Ontario has made it mandatory that you do acquire title insurance because it doesn't just protect you as the owner of the home, it also protects your lender's security interest on the property, given that they're loaning you a huge amount to finance the purchase. So title insurance, it's a one-time fee. It's based on the consideration, so the purchase price of your home and the amount of the security interest by the lender. And it protects you during your entire ownership period, whether you own the house or the condo for 2 years or 30 years. And for you as the owner, it protects you if you don't have a survey available, because most of the time these days surveys are not actually available.
Yeah.
And to get one
Especially
done
if the
could take
home's older.
especially if the home
Yeah.
is older, and it could take weeks to get one done, and it's quite expensive, could be in the
Yeah.
thousands of dollars. So instead, you're paying a small amount that will cover you for any deficiencies with the lining of the property and the boundaries. What it
Okay.
also protects you from are fraudsters, especially following the pandemic. We've seen a huge rise
That's
in
it.
exactly, yes, in
Yeah.
fraudsters who've pretended to be the vendor or someone related to the vendor and
Yes.
forged a power of attorney to give themselves authority
Yeah.
to sell a home. And when title insurance is not involved, they actually get away with it.
I'm so glad you bring that up because I do have buyers that ask about title insurance, and sometimes people wonder if it's the same as, home insurance, which it's not. And why do I have to pay this? Why is the lender asking me to pay that title insurance? And very recently, we saw in the news that there were several fraudsters that came together, pretended to be tenants in homes, and then staged themselves as homeowners. And many homes in Ontario
Yes.
were sold without the actual homeowner even being aware. So because those homeowners hopefully had title insurance, they would have been protected from that fraud. But had they not had title insurance and that property changed hands, then they wouldn't have.
Exactly, they would have lost it and they would have to wait for the cops to find the fraudsters because the new owners, they probably would have been careful. They did acquire title insurance and they're, innocent third party. They had no idea that this was a fraudulent transaction, but they did pay for it. They did get, an actual lender to help them finance it, and they did everything by the book. And they end up getting the property. And we've seen in situations where sellers don't have title insurance, they lose physical possession of their home as well as, of course, title ownership because of a situation like this. For a small fee, one time at the beginning of your purchase, it saves you a huge headache down the line and gives you a lot of peace of mind. So, exactly, most lenders make it mandatory that you do have title insurance. And of course, as real estate lawyers at Kelly Santini, we do not like to act on transaction without title insurance because we want your best interest to be protected. And so it protects you from anything that will also come up on the title of the property tomorrow that we would not have caught on by the requisition date. Sometimes it happens where, let's say, the property changed, and that's when the city of Ottawa remembers, oh, wait a minute, there was a tax bill from 2008 to 2012 that was never paid.
Okay.
We will now put a lien on the property, even though the property has already changed names. Of
Okay, and
course,
that
that
would
has
protect the new buyer from any
exactly.
auditing that could go back in time that would affect their title. So if
Yes,
a contractor came back
yes,
for an
exactly.
unpaid job and wanted to put a lien on the property with the new owner, and the new owner had title insurance, the new owner is then protected from any unpaid dues from the previous seller.
That's
Okay,
exactly
that's
it.
really good to
So
know.
if you guys ever come up with a situation like that after closing, give us a call. We'll, set up a claim with your title insurance provider so that we can get you the credit that you're owed. Because it's happened a few times where after closing, a client will tell me, we got a letter from the city of Ottawa telling us that the water bill from, before we took possession was never paid. The first thing I do is contact the seller's lawyer and say, hey, your seller didn't pay XYZ. Please confirm that that has been done. And if they don't respond to us, because it's also happened after closing, people, that's it, sometimes they can disappear. We don't have to worry because your title insurance coverage will protect you from that. So we
That's
take care of the
great.
claim for you. And, I discuss that in detail when we get on our phone call.
That's
Yes,
wonderful. Thank you for explaining that. So now we'll talk a little bit about the requisition date. So what is a
yes.
requisition date in the offer?
So the requisition date is something that's mentioned usually on the third page of the agreement of purchase and sale, and it sets out a date that the requisition date will be, for example, March 15. Generally, it's 2 weeks before the closing date. And so from the time that we have the agreement of purchase and sale until that requisition date, we have to conduct our title search on the property. And of course, only real estate lawyers have access to conduct a title search.
Okay, so what is a title search and what do you find when you do a title search and why is it so necessary?
So only real estate lawyers can access the land registry office so that they can pull title on every property.
Okay.
Exactly. And every property has something called a property identification number.
Okay.
It's usually mentioned in the agreement of purchase and sale as well on the first page. And we take that number, we take the vendor's name and the address of the property so we can look over the title of the property. The most common thing that we see is that the vendor has a mortgage on the property. Very normal, nothing unusual. And we do notice other things. For example, if the vendor did not pay property taxes or did not pay his utilities, or if there's anything, for example, they've done renovations in the home and did not pay their contractor, and they form a lien on the property, those are things that will come up.
Because we've seen that happen where we had a seller that had purchased a really high-end garage door for $2,800 and installed it before they sold his home, but they hadn't paid the company that installed the garage door, and that company was able to place a lien with the city on that home. Luckily, the lawyer caught it before closing, notified us, and we gave the seller two options. You either pay that amount to that company or that amount will be held back from the purchase price on the day of closing. So you do find that on the title search. Okay, good to know.
Yeah, exactly. And like you mentioned, if those conditions can't be met by the seller's lawyer, if it's something, like $2,800 for a garage door installation that was not paid by the seller, then we will hold that back and pay it ourselves if we don't see that the seller's lawyer is going to undertake to do so. The other things that come up are things that are in the agreement of purchase and sale. If in the schedule of your agreement of purchase and sale, your agent in your favor, in your interest, put out certain conditions that the vendor will provide you with all the warranties and manuals associated to the appliances, that they will take care of a deck issue that was already made aware to them, and we will include those in our requisition letter to the seller's lawyer by the requisition date to say, okay, according to the agreement of purchase and sale, the seller promised to take care of ABC. And we also found a lien on the property and a mortgage on the property. Please confirm that those will be taken care of. The seller's lawyer will then respond saying that they undertake to fill out, the conditions that we have. And they also prepare for us the statement of adjustment, which is the first financial document, very important in a purchase transaction.
Okay, so the requisition letter is asking the seller's lawyer to fulfill, anything owed on that title, whether it's a mortgage or whether it's a lien, and then to have all those things cleared before the buyer can purchase that property and that title can be transferred into the buyer's name. And then you mentioned the statement of adjustments. So, for example, if the sellers paid the property taxes and we're closing in the middle, halfway through the year, the seller's already paid the property tax, or they've paid the hydro bill for that month, or they've paid the condo fees for that month. The seller's lawyer would then give you that statement saying your buyer will have to return all this to the seller before they can take the property.
That's exactly it. So on a statement of adjustment, the items that we find are the purchase price, less the deposit held in trust by the brokerage for the listing agent, plus the adjustments or minus the adjustments for the property taxes, depending on what day of the year we're at.
Okay.
Same idea for the common expenses for a condo, but we don't see things like hydro or other utilities. Because a hydro, what happens is the buyer takes it upon themselves to call hydro and say, I'm taking possession as of this date.
Okay.
And the seller also says, they call hydro to say, I'm leaving as of that date. So hydro will actually do the accounting for them, that they'll only bill them as of, until the closing date. Same thing with Enbridge. But we do take care for our buyer clients to communicate with Enbridge that our buyers will be taking over the account.
Okay, that's great.
Yes.
That's good to know. And what about telling the city that there's a new owner so that they can now receive the property tax, and telling a condo corporation that there's a new owner? Does your firm do that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So on the day of closing, we send a fax to the city of Ottawa to let them know that the new owner is, per Zaeira Yakova. And that way the city of Ottawa will send Zaeira Yakova a letter confirming that they are made aware that she's the new owner, and she will, going forward, receive the tax bill and the water bill.
Okay.
Same idea for Enbridge. We let them know, and you'll be notified by a letter in the mail. And it's the same idea with the condo corporation. So we send an email to the condo corporation when we congratulate you that you're the new owner. We CC the condo corporation to tell them that you're the registered owner. That way they can send you their pre-authorized debit form, their enrollment form, any forms that they send to their new owners in the condo.
That's so helpful.
Exactly. So
So
we
as
notify
in-
everyone.
Yeah, so as a new buyer, if they work with you at Sarah Adada at Kelly Santini, all they really have to do is
Pack
get
their boxes.
pack their boxes and set up their internet.
Yes.
And you notify the condo corporation if it's a condo, you notify the city for property taxes, and you check the title to make sure that the seller is in fact the only seller on title
Yes.
and nobody else is owed any money from the sale of that home.
Yes.
That's wonderful. And then the other question that I had was about land transfer tax. I remember being a first-time home buyer and knowing that the land transfer tax is rebated up to $4,000,
Yes.
I believe. And I thought, okay, so do I have to pay that $4,000 and then I'm rebated by the government? But I found that the day of
Exactly.
closing, it's a little bit different, right? Can you tell me more about that?
So on our intake form, we ask all of our clients to confirm whether or not they're first-time home buyers. Sometimes clients won't know how to answer that question. For example, if they bought a property with a previous spouse that they're no longer with, then give us a call. We can go over these questions. We can go over the details to determine if you are a first-time home buyer or not. But in the situation where you're more than definitely a first-time home buyer and you've never acquired a property anywhere in the world, then what we do is before closing, we submit the statements to the land registry office on the deed that you are a first-time home buyer. So that way the land transfer tax is automatically already reduced by $4,000. And we have you sign an affidavit confirming and swearing on oath that you are a first-time home buyer. So you won't need to come up with that $4,000 on closing because it will automatically be rebated.
Okay.
There has been situations where if you are a first-time home buyer but you will not occupy the property as your principal residence within 90 days of the closing date, then you would not get the rebate, and therefore you would have to pay the $4,000 in land transfer tax or whatever the amount is.
Okay, that's very good
Yes.
to know. That's a lot of great information, Sarah. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. If you have more questions, we're always here to help you. Sarah Adada at Kelly Santini, Zaeira Yakova at MetroCity Property Group. If there's other topics that you'd like us to make videos on or questions that you have, reach out to us. Our information is down below, and we will see you next time.